Hey, and welcome to today's lesson, in which I want to share with you a really simple thing you can do on the 251 to get outside sounds on the dominant, and it's a really good thing to level up your phrasing. Before we get into it, the notation you see on the screen is available as a PDF. Just check the description for a link to my website, where there's also a link to my Jazz Standard Patreon page. And before we get into this, you need a context to work with. We need the 251. We're going to do it in C major just for ease. So D minor 7, G7 to C major 7. Now, a jazz textbook might say something like this. Oh, to play over those three chords, you need Dorian on the 2 chord, on the D minor. On the G7, to get some nice outside sounds, altered sounds, you could use the altered scale, which contains lots of interesting intervals. And then on that 1 chord, you need the major scale, or C Ionian. It's hard, taking those scales and then generating musical ideas, and I think there's some simpler ways to improvise over that than spending tons and tons of time practicing those scales. I mean, that altered scale is quite hard to finger. It's an obscure sound to get into your ears and then be able to create with, and I think there's some simpler ways to access those sounds, and a little hack I want to share with you today is one of those. So what we're going to do is play an idea on the 2 chord on the D minor 7, and then move up by the distance of a minor third and play exactly the same idea on the G7. And then on the C, we'll just play a C major based idea. So here's my first idea on the screen. So it's over this sound, remember? And it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Shift up a minor third. Then C major. I'm imagining there's an A7 there at the end to help us loop the progression, so I suppose it's 2, 5, 1, 6. But this was the point of that first idea, da, 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 against the 2 chord, and then I just take exactly the same idea, move up a minor third, and it gives me the same, I can use exactly the same fingers, and it gives me a great response to that previous phrase, a repetition of the phrase in a way, but different still. So there's a nice link between those 2 phrases, and then on the C major, close it off. And then you go into another one, say maybe, but the idea there is just this. That's the idea. Move it up, and you're just shifting down the fretboard and taking exactly the same idea. And what it gives us on the G7 is root, flat 9 for that altered sound, and the flat 7. So here we go. And then I've got 2 more examples so I can illustrate this a bit more for you. So this second one on the screen, 1. Hopefully you could hear there on the D minor 7, the G7, there's the same rhythm, there's the same kind of idea, but it sounds a bit different. And that first idea on the D minor 7 was coming on the end of 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and then I just shifted up a minor third, played exactly the same pattern, if you like. It's got the same melodic shape, and if you look at, say, the tab or the notation, you can see the same rhythm, you can see the same shape of the phrase. I suppose if you're just looking at the tab, not the notation, you can see the equivalent, first 2 notes in that example, 6 and 7, then in the G7 are 9 and 10, the same distances apart, if you like. Then C major. I made a mess of that. Trying to look at the camera and my music. Anyway, the intervals that gave us on the G7 this time was flat 9 again. We've got the 4th. There's the flat 13, root, flat 7. So we're accessing some interesting intervals just by taking an idea, moving it up the fretboard or down the fretboard, depending on how you view that. And it just gives us an interesting sound. Very easy, and it gives us great phrasing as well. And it's much easier than thinking, how am I going to, grab an idea from that and make an idea from that. Obviously we can with work, but I think this is a much simpler way to get some of these sounds. So That's that second idea. So you can hear there, you get some nice altered sounds, and there's some great response in the phrasing as well, which is nice. The final idea, 3 ideas to show you. I really like this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this idea, going down a D minor 7 arpeggio with the 9th added. There's the 9th. And then again, shift the other F minor 3rd. Effectively playing an F minor arpeggio. And then I'm finishing on a 3rd and a root on the C. Sorry. And this time the intervals on the G7 we're getting a flat 9, flat 7, 4th, flat 9 again, root, flat 7, which asks to finish on the 3rd, on the C chord, I think. Works really well, the slide into both. Anyways, you could see there, those 3 2-5-1 lines that I had for you. On the 5 chord, I just played the same idea I played on the 2 chord, but just shifted up the fretboard, and that distance was a minor 3rd. And it helped give us, let's say, a phrase which has the same rhythm, has the same melodic contour and feel, but the sounds we're getting some of those nice outside sounds, and we're not having to work insanely hard to get that altered scale under our fingers and into our ears, because it is a difficult scale, I think, and I think not everyone uses it, and there's other ways to get those outside sounds, things like I've shown you today. So next time you're playing over a standard and you've got 2, 5, 1, whatever you play on the 2 chord, try shifting it up a minor 3rd and see how it works. I think it does wonders for phrasing. It takes the listener with you from that first idea to that second idea, and then on the 1 chord you could, I suppose, play a similar idea on the 1 chord. I quite often like doing things in 3s, but as you can see in these ideas today, I've just kind of closed it off with a C major bass idea. Anyway, don't forget, tab on the notation PDF is available as a PDF. Just check the description for that, as well as the Patreon page where I do a jazz standard each month. On the first tier, you get chord melody arrangements, you get the backing tracks, and it's just general support for the channel. On the second tier, you get a comping study and a chord tone outline, and then on the 3rd tier you also get a beginner's solo and an intermediate solo for the standard of the month. There's also a Discord server for chatting, and where you can ask questions and so forth. But if you've got any questions about that, feel free to leave a comment or drop me an email. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Any questions about the content of today's lesson, leave them below. Jazz guitar lessons every Wednesday. Until next time, you take care.